Let's bring in a shareholder, Ross Gerber, President and CEO of Gerber Kawasaki Wealth and Investment Management, joining me. Ross, you are a long-term shareholder in both of these companies. They're down for different reasons, right, in 2024. But then you have this TikTok news this week, and you have questions about, is this just yet another risk for these companies to manage? As a shareholder, how are you thinking about this?
Well, I think it's sort of a small battle in the bigger issue that Apple and Tesla face doing business in China, where they've made huge investments over the years, including other stocks I own like Disney as well, where, China has been a big growth driver for the world for at least a decade or two. And so now China is a mature economy that's being mismanaged by their government with a recession and a trade war that's been going on now for several years. This has actually affected Apple and Tesla's business. Apple more recently, we're seeing China sales slow dramatically, go down. And with Tesla, we're now recently seeing the competition in China really start to hit them. So, unfortunately, I think the investments people have made in China over the last 5 years probably won't be as fruitful as everybody had hoped.
Well, is that a thesis? Is that a game changer then, if you are owning Apple and Tesla?
No, not at all. I think Apple and Tesla have to survive and prosper in a global economy where they're the best products and services in their categories. And that's how they've survived in the past. And that's what they continue to do, is make the best products and services in their category. And the companies are very similar in every way other than their CEOs, which are polar opposites, basically. And so I'm not that worried about these companies longer term in China, because I think Chinese consumers actually want these products, and it's another risk for the Chinese government to start banning highly sought after American products, on top of the fact that there are no social media companies allowed to do business in China. So this is, in my mind, just quid pro quo for what they've done to our social media companies in China. So why should they be allowed to have their social media companies in America? So I don't know. It seems fair.
Well, let's talk then about other risks and what's holding back these companies and whether you think they can turn it around. Tesla hitting a fresh 10-month low, and it is no stranger to volatility. It's no stranger to pullbacks of these magnitudes. The difference this time is that it doesn't seem to have the same runway of growth in front of it. You're talking about a company, Wells Fargo said yesterday, they're not going to grow this year. For a high growth company, is that not concerning?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. In fact, what we've been saying is the story isn't the same story anymore. And it took us a good year of pushing. I ran for the board. I'm an activist trying to get Tesla to straighten the ship and get Elon back at the company, focused on what's best for Tesla instead of what's best for Twitter. And, it just hasn't worked. And now the fundamental thesis behind Tesla has changed between, competition in China, issues they're having in Berlin, and, a lack of demand in the United States because the company refuses to advertise, and the CEO works very hard to not sell cars, basically. And so, Tesla's got real issues. It's one thing when a stock goes down just because the stock and the company's fine, like in 2019, but it's another issue when the stock goes down because the company's not fine and not executing and maybe needs a much more reasonable valuation.
So I mean, you mentioned you're an activist, which means you're sticking around, but why not just cut your losses and go elsewhere?
Well, I have. I've cut, our position in Tesla down substantially. We have many Tesla fans and shareholders at our firm, and it's a painful process for everybody to be dealing with this. But we have done this. We made timely moves of cutting our Tesla position in the end of last year and putting a lot of that into AI plays like NVIDIA, Oracle, AMD, and such in my fund GK. You can see all those changes, and that's worked out wonderfully with my fund being up about 12 or 13% this year, while Tesla's down, 33%. So that's only because we've made the changes we've made. Let's
talk NVIDIA. Some near-term, some recent choppiness. It's been down 4 of the last 5 sessions, which, doesn't matter if you've held this thing a long time. The excuse or the reason for selling just seems to be ahead of this March 18th AI event. Do you expect some volatility around that? It's hard to expect that they'd come out with anything negative given it's their event.
Well, not to mention what they're about to announce is
Yeah.
the best, most advanced AI chip they've ever made that makes this H100 chip look like nothing while everybody's dying over the H100 and trying to buy as much NVIDIA chips as possible. This next generation of chips just increases their moats. And in fact, we're extremely excited about what's happening Sunday and Monday with NVIDIA, and yet people are selling the stock today. But I think with NVIDIA, there's a lack of belief that they're really doing this well. There has never been a company, as far as I can recall, that has, not the stock, the actual company, grow their earnings so quickly with such high margins and with such good management and with such a moat. I just have never seen anything like this. So I caution anybody selling the stock. I've been on a lot of shows saying, one of the secrets to building wealth is not selling winners. Okay. So write this down. It's going to be volatile. It's going to move around a lot, but you've got to think long term. AI is the most consequential tech development or technology that I've seen. And I'm not the only one saying this by far, since the internet was founded in 95. And I think the next 5 years might have very similar parallels to the late 90s. And if that is in fact true, this is just the beginning of what could be just an amazing run for technology stocks over the next 5 years. So as a long-term investor, I can really tell you the one thing that we do great in America is technology, and we're building amazing technology today between the Apple Vision Pro and the Cybertruck, and then of course AI computing with Microsoft and NVIDIA. So you got to be in these. These are all in my fund. So please don't miss this opportunity.
Well, I mean, I think if you're talking about this company, and you're right, and it's so important that you said you haven't seen it in your career, because we are talking about a company that doubles from quarter to quarter, not year over year, from quarter to quarter, 75% margins and 35 times forward earnings.
Right. And so I'm old enough to remember when AOL, went crazy in the 90s. That was one of my first big stocks, that I made a lot of money on when I was a kid. And it was the same kind of thing where it was like, well, AOL was kind of a clunky internet service that didn't work very well when it first started. And then they went to unlimited internet, for $25 a month. And it was like everybody signed up and the thing crashed. And I remember thinking, boy, the internet sucks. It doesn't work. And my mom said, which was the most important investing lesson that I learned, was never, underestimate the value of a brand. And AOL is going to be the brand that is the internet. And I was like, you know what, you're right, Mom. And I bought AOL stock when it was down and held it until it was purchased, by Time Warner. And it was an amazing run because the company really put everybody on the internet for the first time. And that's what NVIDIA is doing. It's putting everybody in AI for the first time. Every company can now use AI. I was using it, with my kid to work on his homework, this week. And it was just so helpful. It's just amazing. I use it every day. I mean, it's amazing.